Welcome back to the channel, everybody, or welcome if this is your first time finding the channel. Today, we have another DCU update. Some more stuff coming out that we're going to talk about. Before we get into that, I do want to address, if you haven't seen my other videos, I had somebody comment on my last DCU update video. Yes, I did have a beard. I did shave it. If you haven't seen my other videos, my wife and I went to a Halloween party this weekend, and we were Superman and Lois. So I did shave my beard. So if you're questioning it, I did shave it. So we've got some stuff to get into today. Some news broke last night. I wanted to go ahead and make a video on it about James Gunn potentially staying on if Paramount buys Warner Brothers. We're going to get into that. We've got some updates about the Man of Tomorrow villain, who it might be. We're going to get into that. We've got some stuff to talk about with Lanterns, with deals with Hal's character and John's character, as well as some of the plot. And we're going to talk about some more of the Supergirl reshoots as well. So we got a lot to cover today. We're going to go ahead. We're going to hop right on into it. First thing that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about these Supergirl reshoots. I did talk about this on my last DCU update, that Supergirl was going for 2 weeks of reshoots. If you've seen that video, you know where I talk about how the suit is missing at the Warner Brothers expo lot at their Superman display. The Superman suit is missing, David Cornsweat's suit. That's fueled rumor to these reshoots that he's filming scenes. But we're going to take a look at this article, which is coming from Cosmic Book News. And it says, Supergirl reshoots adding more testosterone, David Cornsweat Superman, possibly more Lobo. It says, following our report from July that more of Jason Momoa's Lobo is being added into Supergirl after impressing Warner Brothers executives, a new claim now says the movie is undergoing major reshoots, this time to include David Cornsweat Superman. The rumor comes from known scooper Daniel Rickman, who suggests Cornsweat is being added into the film, which could signal a significant story change. Okay. Superman costume pulled from studio tour. Adding fuel to the speculation, fans noticed that the Superman costume on display at Warner Brothers studio tour was recently removed. In its place, a sign now reads, Superman costume currently being used by production. While some fans thought it was for Man of Tomorrow, that doesn't start filming until next spring. The timing lines up with these new reshoot rumors and strongly suggests Cornsweat is suiting up again, this time for Supergirl. Now, in my last video I did talk about this. I'm not going to talk about it a lot, but you mean to tell me there's only one suit for David Cornsweat Superman? The dude only has one suit? You're so broke as a company that you can't make another suit? Especially that suit? It couldn't have cost that much to make that suit. I don't understand that. Why are there not multiple suits for these movies and for his character? Just boggles my mind. A shift in story. Originally, Supergirl was thought to be set entirely in space, but bringing in Cornsweat Superman might mean a structural shift. It's possible Gunn and director Craig Gillespie are adding bookend scenes, placing Superman at the beginning and or end of the film to connect it more directly to the DCU's larger arc. As we previously reported, Jason Momoa's Lobo is also getting more screen time in the film. So at this point, it seems clear Warner Brothers is adding more testosterone to a female-led superhero film, just as I said in my report from Comic-Con. And I'm going to read this part before I give my thoughts. But female-led comic book films keep failing. It's not hard to guess why. Recent female-led comic book movies like Madam Web, The Marvels, and even Birds of Prey all bombed at the box office. Whether due to storytelling, poor marketing, or heavy-handed messaging, the track record hasn't been great. Well, I think it's all three. Supergirl may face the same challenges with divisive political messaging and a poor reception to Peacemaker Season 2. It's clear that Gunn's DCU can't afford another flop, especially following reports that Superman itself failed to break even financially. It lost $42 million. As far as the female-led comic book films failing, this Supergirl movie was supposed to be a different direction. I was actually, and still am, interested in the story that they're going with, that it was a darker, edgier, grittier version of Supergirl. That she had watched Krypton be destroyed, and basically it's kind of haunted her and turned her into an edgier, kind of grittier version of Supergirl. And I was looking forward to that. I think doing all these reshoots, I think adding more Lobo, I think adding more Superman, I think is a mistake. I think she could have shined as her own character and came into her own character with her own growth, her own development, and her own story. And I think that would have been more unique than just giving us more of these cameos and giving us more of a team-up movie. That was one of my big issues with Superman, was it was too much of a team-up ensemble movie. If they would have focused more on just Superman, let it be his solo movie, let it be a solo outing, I think the movie would have done much better. And if we would have seen him just grow more as a character on his own, and not with all these other people around that you have to focus on, I think it would have been a much different movie than what we got. And that's what I was looking forward to with Supergirl, but it doesn't sound like we're going to get that now. It sounds like they've changed things yet again, adding these reshoots. I don't know why they can't just stick to their story, stick to the script and the story that they have created, and finish it. The test screening that they did a couple weeks ago at the lot, from what I have seen, it had great reviews. People thought it was good. Why didn't they just stick with that? Now they're going to change it all again. Warner Brothers Discovery unstable future. All of this comes at Warner Brothers Discovery, which owns DC Studios, is being eyed for a potential corporate sale. Possible buyers reportedly include Netflix and Paramount Skydance. What impact this could have on Gunn's DCU plans remains to be seen, but uncertainty continues to cloud the franchise future. Perhaps Gunn is buffing Supergirl in hopes of a better box office. Again, if you had concerns about this character performing well at the box office, then you shouldn't have moved forward making the movie. You should have shelved it if you weren't ready for it. But instead, now we're doing reshoots to add all these things to it, when you should have just focused on the character. Now, I don't mind if we see Superman show up or pop up in a scene, maybe 2 scenes, but I don't want him in the whole movie. If this is going to be Supergirl's story, I want to see her story. And it's supposed to be set in space, so I want to see that setting. I want to see that story. I don't want to see all these other characters. With that, let's go ahead and keep with the Superman saga. Let's get into the Man of Tomorrow news. And this is coming from Superhero Hype. Says Man of Tomorrow update further points to Brainiac being DCU movie's villain. A new Man of Tomorrow update sheds more light on who the DCU movie villain might be. Man of Tomorrow is the upcoming DC Studios and Warner Brothers Pictures movie that is scheduled to arrive in 2027, serving as a follow-up to James Gunn's Superman movie. It will see David Corenswet and Nicholas Hoult reprise their respective roles as Clark Kent and Lex Luthor. I would rather it just be a straight Superman movie, not this Superman and Lex Luthor team-up. What is the new Man of Tomorrow update? While it has not yet been officially confirmed at this time, it has highly been speculated that the main villain of Man of Tomorrow will be Brainiac. Now, a new casting update for the movie shared by Nexus Point News further points to this being the case. Sources tell Nexus Point News that makeup and prosthetics will be used for the film's antagonist. The article reads, in addition, actors with a strong build and stature are being looked at for the role. The makeup and prosthetic portion heavily hints at the character being Brainiac, known for his green skin and technological enhancements. Another character heavily speculated by fans to be the villain is Mongol, whom the casting description could be hinting at as well. Mongol is particularly known for his size, and makeup could be used to recreate his yellow skin. Official plot details for Man of Tomorrow remain under wraps at this time, though Gunn did previously tell the Howard Stern show that it will be about Lex and Superman having to work together to fight a bigger threat. And it's more complicated than that, but that's a big part of it. It's as much a Lex movie as it is a Superman movie, Gunn said. And again, that's where they keep making these mistakes. It should not be a Lex and Superman movie. It should be a Superman movie, not Superman and Lex. I want to see a Superman movie, not a Superman and Lex team up. I want to see Superman, and I want to see Superman fight Brainiac on his own. Now, as far as if it's Brainiac or Mongol, I would say it's Brainiac over Mongol. I don't see them bringing Mongol in. I think Brainiac makes much more sense for a Superman follow-up. But I just want to see Superman. I don't want to see the hokey-jokey team-up stuff that we had in the first Superman. I want to see some character growth. I want to see Superman being Superman. I want to see better visual effects. I want to see better cinematography. I want a better story. I'm just not sure we're going to get that with this DCU. Now, with Superman and Supergirl down and out of the way, let's get into lanterns. So we've got two articles here about lanterns. One's coming from comicbookmovie.com, and it says, Lantern showrunner seemingly hints Hal Jordan will spoiler in the DCU series. Now, I haven't read this article yet, so let's see what they have to say. It says there has been a lot of speculation regarding Hal Jordan's future in the DCU. Now Lantern showrunner Chris Mundy may have provided a big clue to the character's fate at the end of the HBO series. Now, before we get very much further into this, Lanterns is what I am most excited for this coming year with the DCU. One of the reasons I'm more excited about it is it's not directed by James Gunn, and it's not wrote by James Gunn. James Gunn has very little to do with this show. This is a complete different group of creatives that are doing this, and that's why I'm more intrigued for this series. So it says Lanterns will be making its way to HBO next year. The show stars Aaron Pierre as Jon Stewart and Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan as they investigate a murder in a small town. The series will be the first live-action representation of Hal Jordan in 15 years since the release of 2011's Green Lantern starring Ryan Reynolds. The project is making a big change to Green Lantern lore, depicting Hal as an older, experienced hero in his late 50s, early 60s. Given the actor's age, many have wondered whether Lanterns will feature his character's death, thus making Jon Stewart the main Lantern of the DCU. Now, we may emphasis on may, have gotten a clue as to what will be Hal Jordan's fate come the end of the series. Men's Health recently did a profile on Jon Stewart actor Aaron Pierre, where he discussed Lanterns and his former involvement in Marvel Studios' Blade. For the piece, the outlet also sat down with Lanterns creator and showrunner Chris Mundy, Ozark and Criminal Minds, and he was asked whether or not the show would use Hal and Jon's initial antagonistic dynamic from the comics. Mundy offered an interesting response, stating the show was about replacement and the idea of a character needing to step aside, possibly hinting at Hal Jordan not dying by the end of the show, but retiring. Our show is in a lot of ways about replacement. When should someone step aside, and when is it time for the next person to take the reins? That push and pull between those two characters is really important. Mundy further explained that an important character trait of Jon Stewart is that he knows he belongs in the Corps, allowing him to feel confident, and most importantly for a hero who can create he can possibly dream of, keep his composure in situations of stress. So much of the power that John has is by not taking the bait, understanding that you lose your power if you're yelling and screaming. That's what we're trying to convey, that he knows he belongs so he doesn't have to overcompensate. There's a real balance there that's just innately inside of Aaron. He's big, he's an intimidating presence just physically, but there's a softness to him too. There's a thoughtfulness. You can't teach that. That last part may further emphasize the idea that John will indeed replace Hal in the Corps, given how he feels confident about stepping up to be a Green Lantern. It's a fascinating story point, especially for a character like John, who, similar to how he will be portrayed on the show, is known for being calm and collected. Now, it's important to remember that this is just speculation. Yes, Monday's comments seem to reveal that Hal will not be a Green Lantern past Lanterns, but he could have also misspoken or have been referring to the overall idea that Hal is grappling with having a new, younger partner that will eventually replace him. With that said, what makes the showrunner's response so seemingly revealing is the fact that he never mentioned death. He specifically talked about the show being about passing the baton to the next generation. When Kyle Chandler was announced to be playing Hal, the concern was, as previously mentioned, that the hero would not be a prominent figure in the DCU due to his age. As such, the show has long been theorized to be a bit of a swan song for the character. Now, with Monday's comments, again with the caveat that this is speculation, it's looking increasingly likely that may be the case. Passing the baton is an interesting story setup in superhero stories. It worked wonders in 2015's Ant-Man, for example, and for all we know may fit perfectly in Lanterns as well. After all, both Hal and John are great characters. However, it is somewhat disappointing to think there's potential to only get live-action Hal for a single season of television. Such prospect is particularly disappointing when, firstly, we are only just getting to know this version of the character, and secondly, when the only other live-action interpretation of him happened nearly 15 years ago in a film pretty much nobody liked. So, I don't know. I don't want to see Hal retire after this. I'd like to see more of him in the DCU. I don't know why we can't have Hal and John. My other issue with this Lantern show is, why is it set on Earth? It should be set in space. Continuing on about Lanterns, we have another article from Comic Book Movie that says, Lantern showrunner confirms a key detail about Jon Stewart's power in DCU series. Lantern showrunner Chris Mundy has confirmed a key detail about Jon Stewart's powers in the DCU TV series, revealing that the hero's artistic and military background will be key in their portrayal. Lanterns isn't heading in the direction many fans expected. Rather than taking place in the cosmos, it will be a grounded, True Detective-inspired adventure on Earth, and perhaps even a passing of the torch from Hal to Jordan to his Sector 2814 replacement Jon Stewart. It's been widely reported that Kyle Chandler has only signed up to star in Lanterns, meaning he could be a one and done in the DCU. For many fans, the spotlight being put on John is long overdue. For others, this is doing Hal and his story arc a major disservice. I do agree. Those familiar with the comics will know how differently Hal and John approach situations. The Lantern's Green Lantern constructs are typically inspired by either his time in the military or his work as an architect, and this trend is now confirmed to carry over into the upcoming HBO series. One thing we attacked from the beginning was that the Green Lantern powers, a lot of it is based in creativity. Showrunner Chris Mundy explained in a recent interview with Men's Health. To manifest things from the Lantern Rings, you've got to manifest something from your brain, but also kind of from your soul. What does that look like? What does it feel like? I imagine it's not much different than being a sculptor or a painter, and Aaron had to be able to sell that John could have that ability, and that's what he did. He understood that what John would appreciate, that aspect of their powers. We also always joke that Hal just wants to hit everything with a big green fist. I hope that's not what they do. I hope we don't just see Hal hitting things with a big green fist. The Lantern showrunner continued. John was a Marine sniper, which requires a certain kind of focus and diligence. After the Marines, he becomes an architect, so there's an artistic side to him. There are a lot of elements that an actor has got to be able to project, and Aaron is someone who understands that physicality as a trained theater actor. We talked a lot about how being a Marine is John's job, but it's not his entire personality. He's as much an artist as he is a Marine, Mundy noted. There's a real balance of the physical and the artistic that's just innately inside of Aaron, and I think it's essential. Teasing the antagonistic relationship between Hal and John, Mundy said that Hal has kind of a throwback Chuck Yeager vibe to him. He's the kind of guy who you meet and you don't know whether you like him or you want to punch him. John, meanwhile, has a quiet authority about him, and I think that's important to their dynamic to the story we're telling. In The New Frontier, Hal plays a pivotal role in defeating the Center, a villain who is widely believed to be the DCU's big bad. In the main DC universe, the hero was possessed by Parallax and became one of its greatest villains. DC Studios may head down neither route, but with the 54-year-old Nathan Fillion playing Guy Gardner, it does rather look like the plan is to focus on John as the DCU's Green Lantern. Whether characters like Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz will eventually join him remains to be seen. Lanterns follows new recruit John Stewart and Lantern legend Hal Jordan, two intergalactic cops drawn into a dark Earth-based mystery as they investigate a murder in the American heartland. I still don't know why it's set on Earth. And I really hope that that's not how they're going to portray Hal's powers, that he just makes big green fists. I mean, Hal was in the Air Force. We should be seeing him using planes. We should be seeing using all this stuff, not just fists. So I hope they don't go that route. Now, the last thing we have to talk about today is James Gunn. Is he safe? Is he not? Now, news broke last night about this Bloomberg article saying that Paramount, if they bought the Ellisons, want to keep the creative divisions, and that includes James Gunn. Now, I watched a video with John Campea, and he said that James Gunn was safe, and that's what this article meant. I've read this article, and I've read the Bloomberg article, and it does not mention James Gunn, and it does not mention DC at all. So that's taken out of context. So let's get into this. This is coming from CosmicBookNews.com, or Cosmic Book News, and it says James Gunn's DCU safe. Paramount reportedly wants to keep the creative teams, but they do not mention DC and they do not mention James Gunn. Is James Gunn's DCU safe? Even though Gunn himself questioned if he would be there following the release of Man of Tomorrow in 2027. According to a new report from Bloomberg, David Ellison's plan for Warner Bros. Discovery's merger with Paramount is to consolidate marketing, distribution, and streaming operations while claiming the creative teams at both companies will remain intact. However, that same report follows Bloomberg and other outlets detailing massive changes at Paramount that include layoffs and, you guessed it, creative team shakeups. Paramount and Warner Bros. Merger details. According to Bloomberg, David Ellison, the 42-year-old CEO of Paramount and Skydance, wants to keep the creative teams from both studios intact while merging marketing and distribution. Ellison also plans to combine Warner Bros., HBO Max with Paramount Plus, creating a single streaming platform with an expanded film and TV library. David Ellison, Chief Executive Officer and controlling shareholder of Paramount, wants to keep the creative teams of the two studios while consolidating some of the marketing and distribution, according to people familiar with his plans. No decisions have been made about whether Paramount would part with either company's real estate, including two of the most famous studio lots in Hollywood, said the people, who asked not to be identified discussing private information. The merger would also allow Ellison to showcase more projects and build a stronger subscription base, sources told the outlet. The report adds that there are no plans to sell or spin off the company's cable networks such as MTV, CNN, or Turner Broadcasting, and Paramount CBS News could begin sharing resources with Warner Bros. CNN News division. Ellison reportedly wants to leverage AI technology to help produce more films and shows, with a goal of 30 movies a year between the two studios, and reaffirmed his belief in theatrical releases as the best way to build long-term franchises. DC and James Gunn missing from the report. Bloomberg's story makes no mention of DC Studios, Superman, or James Gunn's leadership, only that Ellison wants to keep the creative teams of the two studios intact at Paramount and Warner Brothers. As we've gone over, Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy run Warner Brothers Pictures at Warner Brothers Discovery. Gunn's DC Studios is separate and answers directly to CEO David Zaslav. Again, what does it say when the head of DC Studios openly admits he doesn't know his future, yet he's the only one with Zaslav's ear? For a merger that will completely reshape Warner Brothers' film division, the absence of DC is striking. Sources have told me that Gunn's future is uncertain and that his DCU plans are effectively on hold pending the sale. If Ellison intends to keep creative teams, it's unclear whether Gunn's DC Studios would even qualify. Recent Warner Brothers projects like Superman and Peacemaker Season 2 have been divisive, reportedly underperformed financially, and lost audience interest. Not a strong position for a studio head entering a merger. What could happen is that Gunn's DC Studios gets folded into Warner Brothers Pictures led by DeLuca and Abdy, which lines up with what I've heard. The question is whether DeLuca would want to keep Gunn, since Gunn effectively went above DeLuca to form his own DC division, a move that, as I've reported, canceled DeLuca's plan to continue the Snyderverse. Layoffs and restructuring underway. Regarding the changes at Paramount, Bloomberg reports that Paramount completed its merger with Ellison Skydance Media in August and will announce 1,000 layoffs this week as part of the restructuring. That's the first wave of cost-cutting, with further consolidation likely if the Warner Brothers deal finalizes. Bloomberg also notes that Disney's 2019 acquisition of Fox led to massive layoffs and a reduction in theatrical output. And despite Ellison's insistence that creative teams will remain intact, that notion already appears shaky. Taylor Sheridan, the powerhouse creator behind Yellowstone and multiple Paramount Plus hits, has recently jumped ship to NBC Universal, ending his deal with Paramount altogether. If Paramount is already slashing staff and losing its biggest showrunner, the idea that nothing will change at Warner Brothers once the merger closes seems highly unrealistic. So, the news that James Gunn was going to stay under Paramount last night looks like that was taken out of context, that's not actually what this Bloomberg article said. It doesn't even mention James Gunn or DC. It mentions the creative teams. And those creative teams are Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdy for Warner Brothers Pictures. So James Gunn was not even mentioned. It does not say he will stay on. So take what you hear with a grain of salt. Read the articles. Don't take things at face value. Read the articles and see what they say. Don't just take what everybody's throwing out there on social media and everywhere as gospel truth. So this video did go a little long tonight, but I had all this I wanted to talk about and I wanted to get it out there. So let me know in the comments what you all think, what you think about the Supergirl reshoots, what you think about the Man of Tomorrow villain, what you think about the Lanterns news, and what you think about James Gunn. Do you think he's going to stay? Do you think he's going to be gone? Let me know in the comments below. With that being said, if you haven't yet, please like, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any other DCU videos I have coming out. I have lots of other videos and content that I do too. You can check those out as well. You can also check out other DC videos that I have here. With that being said, hope everybody has a good week. God bless everybody. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate the support, and we will see you on the next video.